Well, howdy, Lacey here. Today I thought that I would talk about Saturn going direct on the 15th, which for me is tomorrow. And also on the 15th is the full moon in Taurus. The full moon in Taurus. I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's fun. I guess to add some pep. Saturn is not the god of pep. I thought, well, Saturn is going direct, so let's talk about what that will mean for us as a collective, who Saturn might affect in the most challenging way, and who Saturn will affect in a more benefic way or beneficial way. For the record, Saturn is considered a malefic, bad. He hasn't always been in every case. He's not in every case associated with bad things happening. He's also associated with wealth because he has a sickle, and the sickle is used for harvesting and cutting down, right? When you harvest and you sell the grain that you harvest, then you get wealth. That's why Saturn was also associated with wealth. Saturn is also associated with death because who else is associated with death that you know of? Well, death, right? If you've ever seen pictures of death, right? I'm going to show images of death just for fun because you love looking at death, right? You're just as fascinated as me, right? Okay. Here we got it, right? Sickle. A sickle. Saturn in mythology, look what he got. He got a sickle. He's got a sickle, right? Bam, right? Boom, right? That's what he's got going on. He's also got some disturbing pictures like this one. But Saturn is not the oldest mythos, right? Saturn was copied from the Greeks who had Hades. Hades was copied from the Babylonians and the ancient Mesopotamian religions from Nergal and Ereshkigal, right? Like, we'll give a little history. How about that? So, because we look to the myths that people wrote about so that we can know what they were trying to describe. What were the characteristics of this wandering planet, this wandering star, right? Planet means wandering star. They just saw that these bright things, bright lights in the sky, are moving, and then other stars are not moving, right? They are just staying stationary. They are fixed stars, right? But these other guys, when they move around, shit happens. And we see it time and time again. So you have people, who are doing cuneiform, right? They're trying to record. I imagine that the reason why they started recording these gods and goddesses, right, is because they were trying to personify what they saw happening in the sky. I mean, there's other ideas too, because like Babylonian, they had the Anunnaki, right? That was their pantheon called Anunnaki. And that those people came from the stars, right? That's their origins. And that's why some people are like, oh my God, aliens. And why not, right? That could totally be a thing, right? It'd be really rad if that was like actually a thing in the past, like we see it, and that'd be like super rad. So let's show you a picture, or they don't have really pictures. Maybe they have pictures of the Babylonian deities. All right, so this is still Saturn, but in Babylon, right? Nergal, the old Babylonian period, Nergal worshipped as the god of the dead. He was also associated with war and plague, happy things. Nergal's cult was widespread with centers in Kutha, Mari, Canaan, and Athens. I don't always know how to pronounce these things, but I listen to a lot of things. Ereshkigal, right? The queen of the underworld, known for her power. And in one story, she trapped the goddess of love, Ishtar, in the underworld after Ishtar sat on Ereshkigal's throne. So Venus, right? So death, that removes a loved one. Venus, the representation of love, was taken, right? That's what they're talking. They're trying to give you harsh realities. They're trying to give you this is what happens when this wandering planet transits the sky. And we notice that when it's in this zodiac, this constellation, right, its effects have more to do with wealth than it has to do with destruction. And then we notice when it's in these zodiacs, it has more to do with destruction than it has to do with wealth, right? They're just recording this, and they're just, doing cuneiform, right? Like Babylonian, that's how we know about these guys, is it's and cuneiform is like a big old tablet, or actually very small. They tend to be really small, and then they're just like lines. And we don't even know how to interpret all of them, but let's see what images pop up with the Babylonian. Yeah, see, here we go. Right? Babylonian. I think this one's Enki. Enki is also associated with it too, because he's the god of water. And so water, as we know, also murks peeps, right? Yeah. See, this is Ishtar right here, the one that I was just talking about. And she's holding life. And I don't know what this other mammer jammer is. I just know that this is closest to an Ankh, right? Which is Egyptian, but they predate Egyptians. So the Egyptians got their gods of death. Ooh, what's theirs? Well, I think Osiris is the god of death and rebirth, right? And then was it Set, maybe? Is he the god of death, or just like war? I'm not exactly up. I just kind of know it when I see it. But yeah, right. So these are like old texts. So these have been written about for so long, you guys. So long. This is, God, ancient history fascinates me. I bargain love it. So this is where we start, right? Gods of death, right? Not happy people, right? Not a happy thing that they're bringing in usually, right? And so from Babylon, we get Hades, right? Hades, known for being the god of the underworld. His name means unseen one. He had a hat that he would put on it and make him invisible. And why? Because death is coming and you can't see death, right? So he obviously, he's got a hat that makes him be that way, right? And he was also sometimes known as the giver of wealth, or Pluton. What? Pluton means what? He was often associated with his helmet of invisibility and a companion Cerberus. That's that three-headed dog, right? Saying up, but no. So yeah. So he was overseeing the dead, right? He's the guy that comes, harvests your soul's ass, and then takes you down to the underworld, where then you get sorted, basically, right? I think you like went across the river Styx, or is that more Pluto and the more Roman mythology? But here again, we see he's also known for time. Time is another thing that Hades, Ershkigal, right? Pluto, they're all associated with time. Why? Because it's associated with age. And we know that with old age naturally comes death. That's the most sort of natural way that humans experience death, right? But yeah, Saturn is harsh. That's who he is, right? Sometimes Saturn was described as a woman, like an old woman, right? Ershkigal, right? She was a lady. So originally Death was a lady. What's up, right? Or Nergal, right? Was the dude maybe version, but anyway, they're associated with time. They're associated with reaping a harvest, or if you haven't worked and you haven't planted a harvest, then Saturn gives you harsh lessons to make you realize, oh, I've got to do things here on Earth. I can't just float by, right? I have to work in order to, get things that I can trade, right? Things that I can feed myself with, right? Saturn is associated with that. So Saturn is associated with, it kind of makes me think of like the ant and the grasshopper story, right? Where the ant every day is slowly building, is amassing some food for them and their colony, right? And then the grasshopper is like relaxing, not doing a whole lot. And then when winter comes, the grasshopper's like, oh my gosh, I haven't prepared. I thought I had time. And then the harsh reality is, bitch, you didn't do anything. You let the ants do all the things. No, right? Like now you're going to have to survive the harsh winter. So Saturn is also associated with the winter months. Saturn is associated with Capricorn, which is December to January, and Aquarius, which is January to February, right? Those are like the massive main winter months for not everyone, but people north of the equator. I wonder if they have other stories south of the equator. I bet they do. Anyway, it would be interesting to know those things. It's an interesting thing. Anyway, so Saturn is harsh, is cold, is unyielding, doesn't have a care, doesn't care, is more like, I will reward you for the work that you have put in. If you haven't put in the work, then the harsh reality is you're going to starve, right? Then the harsh reality is, those are the harsh realities. So that's why abundance, hey, I harvest what you've worked for. If you haven't worked, and you harvest nothing. So, and then you harvest, death, destruction, right? Saturn's head is also often covered as well, right? So we've got this old picture here of Saturn. Saturn's got a sickle, or he's got like a sword, a curved sword, right? I know there's a name for that because I watched Forge and Fire, and they all have names for all their swords, but I don't know them all. But his head is covered, right? Sometimes in the cults they would cover their head, right? Especially Pluto cults, because he's got that cap of invisibility, right? He's got that cap that he puts over himself so that you don't see him, right? And then he's coming with his sickle to help you harvest or help you realize that you need to mature the fuck up and work so that you can harvest, right? Now Saturn has okay, so when Saturn is usually going to come through and reap and do something that's in a good way, is when Saturn is going through the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius, because those are his natural domiciles, right? Those are his natural homes up in the sky. So when Saturn is in those houses, right, the house of Aquarius, the house zodiac, right, of Capricorn, then he can do his best, right? Then when he tends to come, there's more of a harvesty feel, a wealth bringing feel, especially if you've sown your seeds, especially if you've done the work, so that when he comes through with a sickle, it's not your head he's sickling, it's your harvest, your hard work. That's what he's going to be harvesting for you. And then you're like, yeah, you're right. So Saturn can become less of a malefic and more of a benefic. Now, in opposition to that, I'll share my screen again just so we can see the transits here. Share my screen so you can see what the crap I'm talking about. All right. So we have Saturn, who's here right now, right? Today, though. Right now, he's still retro. He's about to station direct, is what they call it when it switches over. So Saturn is very strong when he is in the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius, right? And then also people who have placements here, right? People who have a Capricorn placement and an Aquarius placement, those people tend to be pretty mature. They tend to be people who have an eye on the long term, a long goal. And they tend to be more reserved, right? They don't share a lot of themselves, preferring to let others talk and do the talking, and they reserve it until they're ready to share or it's called upon them to share. But they have an eye on maturity, and they also, because they are Saturn ruled, they can come across as more cold, right? Because work or not, right? Aquarius is like, of course you reaped a crappy reputation, right? It's an air sign, social. Of course you reaped a crappy reputation because you didn't take care of others, right? Or you were selfish, right? Or you would say things, right? I think of people I know who used to talk. I think of people who I've met who will say things that are like, do you hear what's coming out of your mouth right now? Like, do you hear how racist that sounds? Or do you hear how short-sighted that sounds, how no perspective that sounds, right? Astrology really helped me to realize, oh no, they don't see it, right? That's not a thing that everybody can see. But I see it. I'm an Aquarius sun, right? So I'm like, oh, of course no one wants to be around you. You say all that crap, right? Of course. Of course you have a bad reputation. You just run your mouth, and it's like, ah. Anyway, so immature people sometimes will have problematic Saturns. Saturn, okay, so Saturn's so problematic. So what are problematic Saturns, Lacey? What are you talking about? If Saturn is super strong in Aquarius and in Capricorn, then he's less strong in the signs of Cancer and Leo, right? So we know that from mythology, Saturn, Hades, right? They have a helmet that they put on or a cloak that they put on that gives them invisibility. Leo is not the sign that likes to be invisible. In fact, if you want to hurt them, don't even acknowledge their existence, right? They want you to see their leadership skills. They want you to see what they're doing. Mommy, look at me, my Leo son would say often when he was little, right? Like he wants me to see him. To this day, he comes home and he shows me his straight A's. Kid has straight A's. And he shows me them and he wants me to see him and he wants me to be like, oh my God, you so good, dude. And he is, and I do. But right. So Leo, a Saturn in Leo wants to be not hidden, right? Isn't going to do things behind the scenes, right? Is going to be a little more seamy. So Saturn doesn't feel naturally at home here. So when somebody has a Saturn in Leo, it can be a little bit more problematic for them. If they have a Saturn in Leo and they have a night chart, then that Saturn becomes extra problematic because Saturn has teammates. Jupiter and the sun are on Saturn's team. That means that when Saturn is in the signs of Leo or in fire and in air signs where the sun feels most comfortable, aside from Libra and Aquarius. Okay. So the sign that the sun likes to be in really is Gemini. That's the only air sign it likes to be in. In Libra, the sun is in its fall, which means it has a harder time being assertive and being decisive, right? Libras are known for being less decisive, preferring to make decisions in partnerships or with other people. And then they sometimes will have challenging business deals happen because they have a partner who they were, working with, depending on, and then if they start going their separate ways, and that can be problematic for Libra, right? Because now they're like, I don't know what to do. It can feel more. I've seen business owners go through this, especially ones who have prominent Libra. I've seen that. So, and then when the sun is in Aquarius, like it is in mine, it's in its detriment, right? Because the sun is at home, right? So they work in pairings or in opposites. So the sun is at home domicile when it is in the sign of Leo. And then it is in detriment when it's in the sign of Aquarius, because Leo is like, see me. And then Aquarius is like, I'm totally cool if you don't. I don't really care. In fact, I kind of prefer to be alone. No, I don't want a crowd, or I want a crowd, but only on my terms. I don't actually want to be everywhere all the time. So those are the things, right? So the sun has a harder time being super shiny, because when you're super shiny, people come to you. They want you to be their leader. And Aquarius is like, yeah, I know I could be your leader. Maybe I should be, but I'm cool. I'd rather be alone. I'd rather do that. So Saturn likes to be alone, right? So Saturn, who is in domicile in the sign of Aquarius, right, wants to be alone. It wants a solitude. Why? Because when you die, you're dying alone. Yeah. All right. So sect mates. So the Saturn doesn't like to be, it's at home in Aquarius, means it's in detriment in the sign opposite to it. So when I explained that. So the other spot that Saturn is in its domicile is in the sign of Capricorn, right? It likes maturity. It doesn't want to reinvent the wheel. It wants to build. It wants to scale a mountain. It wants to scale that earth and achieve, right? So that way, when the sickle comes through, you harvest wealth. You harvest success. That's what Capricorn wants, right? And then opposite of that is Cancer, the sign of home, the sign of being the source for other people, right? Cancer is known for being I-use. They use up the resources that come to them. They have a natural idea of, oh, I could use that here or here or here. And they will hoard sometimes or keep things because they might use it again later. I see that a lot, right? And they want it because they want to be able to have what they need when they need it. But Cancer is a sign of nurturing, right? Cancer is a sign of mom. So if you have Saturn there, that can kind of make for a cold mom is the way that it will come across. Whereas a Cancer mom can kind of be a little more overbearing, right? Because they just know what you should be doing. I don't hate them. I have a Cancer 4th house. So people who have Cancer placements, when they come to my home, I love them. All right. So in detriment. So when Saturn is in the sign of Cancer, Saturn wants to be alone and Cancer wants to be the source, wants to be the water, wants to be the one giving emotional support to others. And Saturn as a planet just wants to be alone. So you can see where those are at odds. Those are an issue, right? Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra. So Libra is notorious for being indecisive. When you have a Saturn here, Saturn is a little more decisive. Saturn has an eye on what's the long term, right? We're in it for the long run, the long haul. Libra is a Venus ruled sign, right? So there's love, warmth, and caring associated with this, right? Libra also is associated with beauty, right? A lot of people who have a lot of Libra are in the beauty industry, right? They're the people who do your hair, the people who do your makeup, the people who make music videos, right? That's also kind of Leo too, I would say, but and Pisces maybe, but they want to sort, right? And they want to initiate, right? Libra is an initiatory, so it's like, oh, I'm going to go make friends, right? It's easy for Saturn and Libras to make friends because quick to initiate and quick to initiate possibly even a long-term friendship. They have an eye for that, an eye for long-term friendships. And Aquarius is known as being a friendly sign. Even if they're quiet and they have a resting bitch face, when you talk to them, they'll like change. It's really interesting to see it. I do that. I remember when I was hanging out with my husband early days, and we would talk about deep subjects, deep spiritual subjects, and I would be in the car thinking, right? And my face just does this when I'm thinking, or when I'm concentrating, especially when I'm concentrating, my brows furrow. You can see it, my brows furrow. And Jeff would be like, "Are you mad at me?" And I'd be all, "No, sorry. My face does that when I'm thinking." Yeah. So we are friendly. And in the sign of Libra, very friendly, right? There's an easier time with being around people or initiating things, initiating alone time, initiating social things, right? Helping people to figure out things for themselves, right? Saturn Libra is good. Okay, so that's where it's beneficial. So in ancient times, if you were an astrologer and you worked for kings, because that's what we did, and the king wanted to go to war. And if you were an astrologer and you saw that by the time you went to war, that Saturn is going to be in Cancer or in Leo, that astrologer had better say, now is not a good time. Saturn is going to be sickling through here willy-nilly, right? Like either there won't be enough deaths or there'll be too many deaths, but it won't go in a favorable way, right? But if Saturn was going to be in the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius, then you might have more of a success, right? Oh, hey, long-term planning, right? Being in it for the long haul. Wars can last a long time, so you need a lot of discipline. One, to get everybody on the same page, and two, so that you have enough supplies, right? The planning, right? So that you can ant correctly, right? And not grasshopper, like that's what they would want. And then if you had like an eclipse happening during the time of war, that would also be oh shit, this, depending upon where the eclipse was happening, that would be another indicator of yes or no, right? Alexander the Great notoriously is known for the Persian astrologers told the king of Persia, we should not go to war with Alexander the Great because there's an eclipse happening and it's in your pretty shitty house, right? Like the eclipses aren't in our favor. You should not go to war. And then the king of Persia was like, my men outnumber him. He's coming from afar. He's going to be tired. We're going to have fresh troops. It'll be fine. I'm just going to go to war. And notoriously, he loses that war. And not only that, his wife and his daughter get took too. So listen to your astrologers, kings and queens. So what does it mean then when Saturn is going to be going direct, right? So Saturn's about to go direct tomorrow. So Saturn's been in retrograde. When planets are in retrograde, then we have a view of the past. We're thinking about what have our past actions done that have not lent to a good harvest in the past, right? Or what does the past look like, and why are we here again, right? Sometimes. What does the past look like? There's an eye on the past when a planet is in retrograde. It also means that Saturn is less potent when it's in retrograde, or any planet when they are potent. It says to like negate the promise of that planet. When the planet is direct, then it can do its thing. When a planet is retrograde and looking to the past, it has a harder time doing its thing. So Saturn has been in retrograde. I should have looked up since it's been in retrograde. When did you go? Where were we? April, February, April, May. Was it in May, April, somewhere around that time? Somewhere early spring, because Saturn was going over my Venus during that time, and I was writing about it. And I remember that. I remember thinking, wow, I feel less like making other people comfortable at my own expense. That's how I remember feeling. And being like, oh my God, I get taken advantage of so easily sometimes. So Saturn is going direct. The other thing that I've noticed with Saturn going direct is that it's the Reaper, right? So Reaper comes through, the god of death comes through and reaps souls. So the other thing that you're going to see that we're going to have is more souls being reaped, more people maybe dying and passing away. People in particular who have Saturn, and this isn't the only, there's like a myriad of things that influence Saturn and his reaping ability, right? If Saturn is going over, an aged person, maybe your older loved ones, sun, moon, or rising specifically, right? Because those are important things, right? The sun is our vitality. Our rising is where our sun and our moon meet. Our soul, when the moment our soul entered into this vessel, that's the rising sign. That's why it's important. And then the moon is the inner world, right? Is our emotions, our primal sense, right? It's the part that people have to know you a little bit better to be able to see, because it's more private. It's your emotions, your inner world. So if you have a sun, moon, or rising, and Saturn is going direct over an angle or over your sun or moon, then Saturn is going to be coming to call, right? And Saturn's going to say, what have you been doing with your time? Have you been maturing? Have you been growing? Have you been evolving? If you have, then you're going to reap a good harvest. If you've been doing the darker shadow death work in your life, right? Things that you need to change. Then Saturn comes through and goes, hey, let's get you some abundance. You've been working so hard. Saturn rewards that, right? If you're an older person and Saturn's going through there, then Saturn might harvest them. And I know that can be fearful inducing for some. And so I encourage you, if that feels fearful to you in any way, stop this video, take a quick minute, meditate, do some slow breathing, and listen to what your intuition is telling you. Do that. And that way it'll give you a better barometer. It'll give you a better sense of what you need to take from this rather than fear. Fear is not something I want you to take from this. However, Saturn represents fears in our charts. I have a Saturn, and what we think of as rude, right? I have a Saturn in Virgo. I fear health or, other people's health. But yeah, the fears, they represent fears, everyday fears. This is very true. I fight everyday fears on if I say this, people are going to not like me, right? Or if I do this, am I shooting myself in the foot? Like every day. It's constantly checking me. Anyway. But so if Saturn is going through there, then know that you can expect that, maybe they might be passing away. My mother-in-law, actually, she has a Saturn at 17 degrees of Pisces. That means that when Saturn goes over her DC, her seventh house of other, that's partnerships, long-term partnerships, that's husband, right? That's moms, that's, people who you feel connected to, that you have face-to-face relationships. When Saturn goes through there, that is the reaper. And so her husband is getting on very, very, very much on in years. And I know that he has gone, when Saturn was direct this last time, I know that her husband was having some issues and had to go to the hospital, and it wasn't looking too good. So I can expect that as Mars goes direct, her husband uh, may have a likelihood of passing away, right? That's a weird thing to know, that by like this time in February, when Saturn's on the other side of her 17 degree, this time in February, he may not be around. What a thought. And her mother also is getting on in years, and her mother's been in the hospital twice. And so every time that the moon is in Aries and Saturn is making a shift, her mom's in the hospital. So I can also expect that her mother is going to be passing away, which means that I know that around Christmas time and my birthday, January, I know that I might be going to funerals. It's an interesting thing to know about the harbinger of death, right? About Saturn, about these things. In some ways, it kind of makes it kind of beautiful because now they're still here. And so I can call them, text them, message them, while they're here. And, you only have so much time with them potentially, so it's an interesting thing to know this. If you have pets, right? Pisces is the sign of pets, the sign of animals, the sign of, intuitively knowing them. So some people who have older animals, you might experience your pet passing away. Again, you hate to bring that bad news, but Saturn, it just does it. Saturn's like time's up, boom, gone, So pet your pets more, hug them, like kiss them, right? Yeah, enjoy them while they're here. Know that, hey, and then know that the struggle is going to be over soon, right? When you are having to be caretaker for someone who is had issues for a long time, right? Health issues, drains, things like that. When Saturn comes through, it can be kind of a relief. Like, thank you for harvesting that. I was trying to keep that alive. I was trying to keep that going, and now I'm ready to let that go. Saturn's been going over my Venus, right? So love relationships, money relationships, right? Things that I thought I would never get over have definitely shifted. And I've definitely gotten some harsh realities around some of those relationships. And now I'm like, oh, wow, I was being taken advantage of in that situation. I'm going to put a boundary and no longer be taken advantage of now. And so you do that, so Saturn going direct, let's talk about for who it'll be most challenging for, the signs it'll be most challenging for. So first and foremost, Saturn will be most challenging for those who have Pisces placements, sun, moon, and rising, especially if that person is older, older, more mature in age, or has been having, it has been in the hospital often, right? That's something that you can be aware of. I once had a client who had a daughter, she had a lot of Pisces, and when Saturn retrograded and then when Saturn went direct again, then that's when her daughter passed away. So I've definitely seen those things happen. Harsh realities and yeah, horribleness. So it'll be sun, moon, rising would be it's called a conjunction, and conjunctions are considered a hard aspect, or an aspect that is hard, right? When Saturn's sitting on you and is like, what are you doing for your future? You feel like, oh my gosh, I should plan better for that. I should do better for that. I should come out, because fear can be motivator. Saturn brings that and brings boundaries, right? So those with Pisces placements are going to have a hard time with it, especially if you're fighting the harvesting, fighting what Saturn's trying to get you to do. Then you're really going to struggle with this. And then those who have squares, the signs who have squares, so the other mutable signs here. So the other mutable signs we have are Gemini and Sagittarius. Now, Jupiter, who is Saturn's sect mate, is going through here, and Jupiter does not give Jupiter gives optimism. Jupiter gives expansive beliefs. Jupiter gives wealth, right? And Jupiter's in detriment here. So he's not exactly happy to be going through Gemini, but it is a sign the sun likes to be in. So Jupiter isn't the worst, right? These guys are pals here, the sun, Saturn, and Jupiter. These are pals, teammates. So when they square off with each other, it could be sort of more like a fun banter, maybe, right? Like we're fighting each other, but maybe not, we're not fighting each other to actually murk each other, but more to be like, maybe they're arguing, right? Two friends can argue, two people in a relationship can argue and have a difference of opinion, right? That's what you have going on here. So there's going to be a square that's going to be happening between these two buddies. And yeah, just between, right? That's what's up. Since Jupiter is over here in Gemini, if you have sun, moon, rising in Gemini or placements in Gemini, Saturn's not going to give you the harshest extreme because Jupiter's there and he doesn't really want to fuck up his pal Jupiter. Sagittarius. So the sun is going to be going through Sagittarius. That's good. Sun likes being in Sagittarius, right? So when the sun is in Sag, Saturn may not do its worst, right? Because the sun and him are mates, right? But they are going to be in an argument, though. The sun is going to be coming into, let's go weeks. The sun is going to be coming into Sagittarius, right? Saturn's direct. Jupiter is retrograde, right? We're having a square here. See this? Sun is in square now to Saturn here on 1205. So that means these two are going to have a bit of a fight about maybe truth, about spiritual truths, right? Because Pisces is a religious sign, as is Sagittarius. And when I say religious, I don't mean necessarily institutionalized religion. I mean people who have another kind of sense where they are constantly connected to something higher than themselves, something outside of themselves. They have an intuition that there's something more to this life than just this. There's something more going on. That's so. And then Sagittarius is a sign of the preacher. I got some good news. I've got to share that good news. I just learned this. I've got to teach this. It's a sign of teachers and preachers and sharing the good news. So these two people, maybe you'll agree with somebody older, mature about you. Maybe you're somebody who's older than you. So like a grandma, a mom, an older friend. You might have disagreements around this time about certain things, about what church to go to, or I don't want to go to church. I want to go to church for Christmas. You know, could be like spiritual or teaching things that are being taught. Anyway, but they're going to square off, right? So squaring off means a challenge. Those who have a lot of Virgo placements, oh, I feel mama here. Oh my God, I have so many Virgo placements. I have a Saturn in Virgo. I have my Mars in Virgo, and I have my Jupiter in Virgo. There's definitely going to be some stuff coming up for me. I know it, you know, like that square, right? Oh, it's definitely going to be. In fact, I know that on around Christmas time, actually, here, the 25th here, right? See, this is at 14. My Mars is exactly at 14 degrees. And so I'm going to feel like I've got to be in two places at one time. That's what oppositions give. You have to make a decision. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. The last time I had Saturn opposite my Mars, my husband had to go in for some dental work done, and then it ended up costing a bunch. So it was like, oh man, you know, so I know to expect that too. Anyway, it's just what's popping. It's just what it is, and just be down, you know. But yeah, so Saturn is going to be going back through here. So if you have Virgo placement, sun, moon, rising, this is another one that could also be, you know, after a conjunction, oppositions tend to be the hardest. Squares are challenges. Those are like, I got to do something about this. I can't just let it slide. Oppositions are, you can try and let it slide, but you're still going to have to answer the door. It's still going to be an issue for you. You still have to make a decision. So those are kind of difficult. So if you have Mars placements too, right? Saturn's going to be asking you to get real. And so depending upon what sign it's in, right, will be where it'll have the most effect. So if you're a person who has a lot of placements or a lot of energy in Pisces, in Sagittarius, Gemini, and in Virgo, you all are going to be affected possibly more than the other signs, right? Saturn is in trine here, right? Trine with the water signs. That means there's a flow or there's an ease. So if somebody does pass away, it'll be less shocking or maybe impactful, right? It'll be more of like well, we knew and now they're in a better place. There could be more of an ease with the passing of a loved one. And then the earth signs, right? Minus the Virgo, but Capricorn and Taurus. You're also going to have an easier time with Saturn because one, Taurus, you don't move ever, and you already have an eye on security and growth. So you're fine. And then Capricorn, Saturn is in domicile there, and Saturn naturally has an ease with you. So you could be finding yourself reaping more harvests in a positive light, in a way of money, benefits, right? Things coming to fruition that you can now harvest. That would be like what you can expect, Capricorns, you lucky people. All right. So that is ultimately what Saturn is. So the best way to deal with Saturn and Saturn's transits is meditation, breathing, thinking about the end of time. If this were the end of time, have I lived a life I wanted to live? If this were the end of time, and am I maturing in a way that I find I like, right? That I'm growing in and that I like. If you are finding those things, then Saturn's transits, even when they're harsh, you surrender to them and you have an understanding that I am a moment on this life, on this planet. I'm a second, right? And so it's kind of easier when you have perspective like that, right? Then it makes Saturn's transits easier, right? So breathe in and out, breathe slowly, and remember you're a speck. Which hopefully that'll make you feel good, because it kind of makes me feel better, right? Like I'll be all, oh, I'm a speck, it's okay, if you've been holding on to things, right, then Saturn's going to take it, right? If you're holding on to something and it's not benefiting you, then Saturn's going to come through and take it. And sometimes when things are taken from us or people are taken from us, it can be really hard and harsh. But then after a while, you realize, oh, wow, that all that energy I was putting into that is no longer there. Now that energy can be put back into other endeavors, other people, right? Myself, right? Then that can be kind of peaceful, but you kind of have to be down. So Saturn's coming through. Saturn's going to do its thing. It's for your ultimate good. And I hate to say that for like, if I think about like my children dying or being in an accident or somebody's taken from me immediately, I would eat all these words. I would just be like, fuck you. I definitely would be. It would definitely be hard, but maybe like super hard. I would definitely get pissed. But it's also something that you wouldn't be able to change. So harsh realities. So be a champ at dealing with harsh realities. Don't ignore your intuition. Saturn wants you to acknowledge that your intuition is correct, right? Yeah, this is happening. So happy Saturn going direct. And then full moon tomorrow night in Taurus. That's very happy, actually. The moon is going to be in trine to, oh God, really quick, I'll share that again. The moon is going to be in trine to Venus and is going to be conjunct. Okay, let's go back to when this is going to be. Boom, Freya day. That's good. Taurus is ruled by Venus and Venus is in Capricorn. So some of you might have some unexpected windfalls, maybe from your mom. Your mom gives you money all of a sudden. That would be like a thing that this could be for a full moon. It's in a wide trine. It's also in a trine to this Pluto here, right? So this could also be like an unexpected departure too, right? Pluto's also another god of death, like we just talked about. But it's a planet of rebirth, right? So you might find that you're seeing women, moon can represent women, Unexpectedly, you're talking to a woman and you notice the ways that she's changed or transformed, right? That's a thing that can happen here. Full moons are what have you done that you are reaping now? What did you post on the new moon, right? Which would have been close to Halloween, November 1st, 2nd, 1st. Yeah, I think it was 1st. What were you doing then, and what have you harvested between then and now, right? I in fact was invited to this Sunday, go to a friend's house who was actually at a party I was doing a ritual for and reading cards for, and they have asked me to help them talk to them about spiritual things and to be magical and to teach some tarot. So that was something I did on the new moon, and that is something that somebody now is asking me to come back and, hey, at the party you said this, you did this reading for me, tell me more about that, how did you know? That's actually what they're going to talk to me about, which is rad because I like being correct. But yeah, so unexpected, right? So unexpected rebirth, right? Unexpected light shed, the full moon gives light, right? Lots of light, maximum light at night. So unexpected babies be happening would be at this time too, right? Like, well, our hospitals are full, or, you know, why is everybody having a baby? Anyway, stuff like that. But yeah, full moon. So luxury. The sign of Taurus likes luxury sugar, right? She's like, give me a soft shirt, give me soft hair, give me awesome skincare, right? They don't really care about makeup as much as Libra does, but Taurus tends to like more like skincare and like barefaced looks. That's really what I've noticed about Taurus. They want one quality thing over many a bunch of less subpar things. So, you know, what have you bought for yourself? Maybe go buy something for yourself that's like a little luxury. Like, you know, you can find luxury anywhere. You can go to the thrift store and find I found this shirt at a thrift store. It is so soft. I love it. So it's high quality, you know, and you're like, hell yeah, found this. So it doesn't even have to be expensive, it just has to be quality. And then like yummy food, like gourmet food, like, ooh, find a recipe on Pinterest or something, and then you can try and make it like something that is like gourmet that you've never tried. That'd be rad. But yeah, think of those kinds of things and then leave room for the unexpected. Pluto's big, Uranus is, right? You thought you were going there, you picked up a hitchhiker, and now you're on your way to Kansas. Not exactly like that. That's extreme, but Pluto gives extremes, right? Pluto's extreme. So it could be some extreme swing, right? Some kind of extreme, something unexpectedly happens and it's like extreme somehow, especially Saturn going direct on that same day. We could see some bodies, you know what I mean? The moon likes to be in the sign of Taurus. She's exalted in the sign of Taurus. And Venus is in Capricorn with Pluto. So Venus is in a place that she likes. So that kind of makes it easier or better to make a prediction for the moon here. It could be more of a, ooh, abundance came in, right? It could be more like, ooh, a harvest came through and I got a bunch of money. That could be more of the thing. That's the thing I would love to bless everyone with if you've been working hard, right? So yeah, full moon. If you're like me and you're super witchy because you love it, you can put out your crystals, right? Put out your crystals, put out your moon water, right? If you don't know what those are, Google them. But yeah, my fun little crystals I like to put out. Just makes life more magical. Why the fuck not, right? Put out your crystals, let them get charged in that beautiful moon, put out your moon water, and then when you go to make your gourmet meal, use that water maybe, you know, post that after that because it obviously has to sit out in the moonlight. Anyway, they're all fun stories, and they're all stories that are meant to encourage you and give you some kind of hope and comfort when you're in times of dark places, right? So charge your shit, especially on a full moon where the moon is exalted. Do that. I will talk to y'all later. You're welcome. Hopefully this helps you to love your loved ones more. All right, I'll talk